Hi guys, I'm Yasmeen. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Diamondback. I'm here with our sports editors and football writers, Connor Letourneau and Josh Vitale. We're here to recap this weekend's game against NC State. So Connor, Perry Hill suffered a potentially season-ending knee injury in the second quarter. What do you think that means going forward?
Well, it means that Devin Burns and Caleb Burrow are going to have to step up. Devin Burns, who a lot of you may know, was a wide receiver entering camp this year, made the move over to quarterback to provide depth. Now is Perry Hill's backup, probably going to have to be the starter potentially for the rest of the season. So really it means they're going to have to change their offense really to cater to Devin Burns' skills in a lot of ways. He's an option quarterback, doesn't have a great arm. So they're going to have to rely more on the run game and find unique, different ways to get the ball in guys like Marcus Leak and Stephon Diggs' hands.
Josh?
I think it's going to create an interesting situation, especially looking back to Edsel's history with the team last year. Last year he had Danny O'Brien and C.J. Brown at quarterback coming into the year. Danny O'Brien, the clear-cut starter, but, as we all saw, C.J. Brown got snaps. And this year, Devin Burns almost seems like the C.J. Brown type, great runner, suspect passer, but, he can play well there. And Caleb Rowe came in, did a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, showed his passing ability. I think Burns is the starter if Hills can't go, but it's going to create an interesting thing. If Burns struggles, maybe Rowe comes in. Maybe Rowe comes in on passing situations. It's going to be a lot of fun Edsel things happening towards the end of the season.
So it was a pretty heartbreaking game, but the Terps did have their best rushing performance of the season. Why do you think that was?
Well, a lot of it has to do with Devin Burns. When he went in the second half, he's really a threat running the ball. He's really quick, really elusive. And because of that, you started to see a lot less blitzing from NC State. And, since they were paying so much attention to Burns, kind of opened up some options and some holes for Wes Brown, who got the majority of the carries in the second half. Had a huge game for him, 125 yards and 25 carries for a 4.8 average. And to me, he secured the starting role potentially for the rest of the season, and it's huge for the team going forward because they have been atrocious in the run game. They were third to worst in the FBS last week, so hopefully this can build some momentum and they can get their run game going for the rest of the season.
Josh?
Yeah, by far their best rushing performance is almost an understatement. The Terps had 206 total yards, which was more than 60 yards better than any game they had this season. Wes Brown became the first Terps rusher to go over 100 yards since C.J. Brown did it from the quarterback position last year. They were great, and I think it all comes down to, like Connor said, it comes down to Devin Burns. You see it all the time in both college and NFL. Quarterbacks that can rush open up holes for everyone else in the field. Let's talk about Tim Tebow because the whole world's talking about Tim Tebow again. He came into the Broncos last year. They had a terrible run game, but you give him that threat, and that opens up the field for everyone else. So Devin Burns comes in, he can rush the ball. He had 50 rush yards, and that opens up holes for Wes Brown because you can't just watch Wes Brown running the ball. You have to watch Devin Burns too. So it opens up a lot of holes, and if Devin Burns is the starting quarterback, the running game is going to continue to get better.
Connor, Craddock missed a potential game-winning field goal, to lose the game. What do you think this means going forward?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially assuming that Hills isn't able to come back this season. I do think they are still able to pull out a win at Boston College this weekend. Boston College is just atrocious. So I do think they are able to pull that out. But outside of that, there really are no guarantees, especially with, a second and third option at quarterback. Third and fourth if you take Brown into consideration. So, there's no guarantees. I still think there's a chance that they're able to get 2 more wins and secure a bowl berth, but nothing's guaranteed at this point. Not like it was, I think, if Hills was ready to go.
Josh?
I think that missed field goal is going to really, damage the team's confidence. They had 2 losses before this, but you didn't see what you saw. After the UConn loss, they were frustrated. After the West Virginia loss, they were almost positive because they played one of the nation's best teams pretty well towards the end. But you could see it post game. The players were distraught. AJ Francis was very emotional post game. You could see it from all the players, and I think it's going to hurt them going forward. They have the winnable game against Boston College. They have winnable games against Georgia Tech and North Carolina to close out the year. But if they can't put this behind them quickly, then it could hurt their bowl chances.
And there were obviously a lot of different dimensions to this game, but how would you grade the Terps overall?
I was really impressed with their resolve and their ability to come together in adversity. The way Devin Burns stepped in and the way Caleb Rowe stepped in at the end of the game was very impressive, considering that they had basically no experience heading into this game. And the way Wes Brown was able to step in after coming off a shoulder injury, get 125 yards. I think it was really an impressive all-around game, even though they weren't able to capitalize on that final field goal. So I would give them an A- for their efforts. I was really blown away by the way they came together.
Josh?
It's a tough game to grade. I mean, a lot of positive things. Burns and Rowe came in and played very solid for the circumstances they were in, not expecting to play that game. Wes Brown, led the team to their best rushing performance of the season. And that 2-minute drill at the end was run pretty flawlessly. They had a chance to win the game with a pretty makeable 33-yard field goal. But, then you look at the missed opportunities. They missed the field goal. Wes Brown fumbled in the fourth quarter. Perry Hill's being lost for the season, potentially, with that knee injury. And they lost the game. I mean, with all the positives and negatives, I'm going to give them a B. But, that grade could be so much higher or so much worse, just if a few things had changed in the game.
Thanks for joining us. Check back Friday as we preview this weekend's game against Boston College.